Hey, this your man right here, Curtin ICE for Shades Radio. And before we get any further into discussing and going over some of the great uses of AI, whether it be music or video, and that's what we're going to be doing on this channel from in 2025 going forward, exploring all the different uses of AI and the great ways that we can use it to be more creative and inspired and put out great messages with unique forms of communication. Now, before we get into that, let's think about music. People have been misguided as to what music is. Many, if not most people, think music is a business that has popular stars and industry moguls and famous producers and award shows and marketing campaigns and things like that. And that's what it's solely become for most people. But music is really just another form of communication that existed long before the time it was able to be recorded and distributed. So before we can get into what music can become and has already become with AI, let's talk a little bit about the history of the music business.
The history of the music business. The history of the music industry spans centuries, evolving from live performances to a global business driven by technology and commerce. Here's a broad overview of its key developments. Early music distribution, pre-20th century. Before recording technology, music was shared through live performances, oral traditions, and sheet music. The printing press, 15th century, made sheet music widely available, allowing composers to distribute their works. By the 18th and 19th centuries, opera houses, symphonies, and touring musicians formed the foundations of a structured music economy. At this time, the producers of sheet music and those who controlled live performances were the gatekeepers of popular music. However, local or personal music was still circulated literally, by word of mouth. Sheet music was for a niche audience who understood how to read musical notes and is still available today for a similar niche audience. The phonograph and recorded music. Late 19th to the early 20th century. 1877, Thomas Edison invents the phonograph, allowing music to be recorded and played back. 1887, Emil Berliner develops the gramophone and introduces flat discs, vinyl records, replacing Edison's cylinders. 1900s to the 1920s, record labels emerge. Victor Talking Machine Company, Columbia, and later RCA, dominating the market. Radio, 1920s, becomes a major platform for music exposure, changing how people access music. The rise of popular music and major labels. 1930s to the 1950s. The Great Depression and World War II slow down industry growth, but radio and records remain influential. Jazz, blues, and early rock and roll gain popularity. 1948. Columbia Records introduces the LP, long-playing record, allowing albums with multiple songs. 1950s. Rock and roll explodes with Elvis Presley, Chuck Berry, and Little Richard, shaping modern youth culture. The rock era and mass media expansion, 1960s to the 1970s. Major record labels, Columbia, RCA, Capitol, Warner, consolidate power. The British invasion, 1960s, led by the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, reshapes the industry. FM radio gains influence, helping album-oriented rock thrive. The cassette tape, 1963, gives consumers more control, introducing personal mixtapes and portable listening. Disco, punk, and early hip-hop emerge in the 1970s. MTV and digital precursors, 1980s to the 1990s. 1981, MTV launches, making music videos a crucial promotional tool. 1982, Sony and Philips introduce the CD, compact disc, improving sound quality and durability. 1990s. The rise of rap, grunge, and electronic music diversifies the industry. The internet starts disrupting traditional distribution through early digital file sharing. The digital disruption and streaming era, 2000s to the present. 1999. Napster popularizes MP3 file sharing, leading to industry pushback and legal battles. iTunes and the iPod, 2001. Apple revolutionizes digital sales, shifting focus to downloads. Streaming services, 2010s to the present. Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube change consumption habits, prioritizing accessibility over ownership. Independent artists gain power via platforms like SoundCloud, Bandcamp, and TikTok, reducing reliance on major labels. AI-generated music, 2020s. Advances in AI and generative tools challenge traditional creation and distribution methods. The music industry has continuously adapted to new technologies, shifting from physical to digital and now to AI-powered content creation. Today, streaming dominates revenue, while social media and digital tools empower artists more than ever. Music distribution and consumption, from the past to the present. The way music has been distributed and consumed has evolved dramatically over time, influenced by technology, industry shifts, and underground movements. The following is a breakdown of the major phases in music distribution, including mainstream and niche formats that shaped various genres, including rap. The era of live performances and sheet music, pre-1900s. Before recording technology, music was distributed live via concerts, operas, and street performances. Sheet music allowed composers to share their work, and skilled musicians could play popular songs at home. Oral tradition played a huge role in folk, blues, and early African American spirituals. People attended concerts or played music themselves. Classical composers like Beethoven and Mozart relied on patrons or public performances to share their works. The birth of recorded music, late 1800s to the 1920s. Phonograph cylinders, 1877, and later vinyl records, 78 RPM, enabled music playback at home. Radio, 1920s, allowed mass distribution, giving artists national exposure without selling physical copies. Listeners gathered around radio broadcasts, especially for jazz and blues, shaping early pop culture. Juke joints played records in black communities, where Delta blues and early jazz flourished. The rise of records and mass media, 1930s to the 1950s. Vinyl records, 33 1/3 and 45 RPM LPs, became the standard format for music distribution. Radio DJs, such as Alan Freed, promoted records, helping genres like rock and roll explode. Independent labels, like Chess, Sun, and Atlantic Records, played a major role in R&B and rock's rise. Households owned, record players, and fans bought albums from record stores. Live radio performances introduced artists to wide audiences. In the underground, acetate pressings were used for early doo-wop and jazz bootlegs. The mixtape and cassette revolution, 1960s to the 1980s. Cassettes, 1963, allowed cheap, portable music distribution. The mixtape culture emerged, with people creating personalized selections of music. Bootleg and underground mixtapes helped spread punk, reggae, dub plates, and early hip-hop. 8-track tapes were briefly popular, but lost to cassettes due to bulkiness. Listeners used Walkmans, Sony 1979, for portable music. Underground hip-hop mixtapes, DJ Kool Herc, Grandmaster Flash, the Cold Crush Brothers, were sold in barbershops, record stores, and on street corners. Pirate radio stations like those in the UK played uncensored reggae, punk, and hip-hop. The CD and bootlegged hip-hop era, 1990s to the 2000s. CDs, 1982, replaced tapes, offering better sound and durability. Major labels controlled mass CD production, but underground artists still relied on mixtapes. Hip-hop DJ mixtapes, DJ Clue, K-Slay, Funkmaster Flex, became crucial for breaking new artists. Bootlegged CDs and white label vinyls were popular in the club and DJ scene. Fans bought CDs in stores like Tower Records or through Columbia House mail-order clubs. Street vendors and barber shops sold bootleg mixtapes, helping independent rappers like 50 Cent, Dipset, and DJ Screw gain followings. In the South, chopped and screwed tapes, DJ Screw Swishahouse, circulated underground. The digital and MP3 revolution, late 1990s to the 2010s. Napster, 1999, and MP3 sharing disrupted the industry, letting fans access music for free. iTunes, 2001, legitimized digital sales, shifting focus to single-track downloads. Blogs and forums, DatPiff, live mixtapes, became key platforms for rap mixtapes. Lil Wayne, Gucci Mane. Fans burned CDs and swapped MP3s via LimeWire, Kazaa, and BitTorrent. Early YouTube, 2005, and MySpace helped independent artists reach audiences without a label. The streaming and AI-generated music era, 2010s to the present. Spotify, 2008, Apple Music, 2015, and SoundCloud replaced digital downloads with streaming. Bandcamp and AudioMac provided direct-to-fan platforms for independent artists. AI-generated music, like from platforms such as Jukebox and Suno AI, is pushing new frontiers. Fans consume music via streaming playlists, YouTube mixes, and TikTok snippets. Lo-fi hip-hop and underground rap thrive on SoundCloud, Bandcamp, and YouTube. Physical vinyl records have made a comeback among collectors and audiophiles. Conclusion: the evolution of access and culture. From live performances and sheet music to AI-generated music and streaming, how we consume music has changed dramatically. Yet throughout history, underground and bootleg movements, whether jazz acetates, hip-hop mixtapes, or pirated MP3s, have always fueled new trends and given independent artists a voice outside the mainstream industry.